No, Obi-Wan, listen carefully. He scoops up the field mice first, and then he bops them on the head. Now you listen to me. As a Jedi, I have a very particular set of skills. I will hunt you. I will find you. And I will train you. Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Tonight I'm taking a look at the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Qui-Gon Jinn. Now this is one of those figures we've been waiting on for a long time. And yesterday during my Anakin review I talked about how I didn't care too much for the prequels, but I liked situations. I liked some of the story. I liked a lot of the characters, and Qui-Gon, he was one of the characters I really liked. Very focused, very controlled, but he had a rebel streak in him. He was kind of a badass. So finally getting him in plastic form is awesome, but at the same time we're getting this figure followed quickly by the SH Figure Arts version. So we go from famine to feast. And surely between the two, we're going to end up with a good Qui-Gon. Now, I got this from Dorkside Toys along with the rest of the set. And even though Qui-Gon was high on my list, I saved him till last because I was a little bit nervous, I guess. I want him to be so good. I just didn't want to be heartbroken. So I opened the rest of the wave. Got to this one, and here we go. Now the package is your standard Black Series packaging. The red, the black, the pretty picture, the names, the warning on the front. That way you don't miss it at all. Yeah, don't swallow any of this, guys. Qui-Gon is number 40. On the back we have the pretty picture, the bio, the legalese. The warnings down here. Unreadables probably say something like... Oh god, what am I going to say here? I'm stuck. I usually just pop these off the top of my head and I can't think of anything. Probably says something like, don't mess with Qui-Gon and you won't get none. That almost rhymes, I don't know. On the side we get that new updated graphic. Top, nothing. The bottom, legalese, barcode. So I'm gonna get this open and hopefully this lives up to the hype. Cause yeah, oh, I so want it to be good. And there we go, all out of the package, and there is some interesting stuff going on here. Some experimentation, but we'll get to that. First, I'm going to talk about the sculpt of the body. I do like this body. It's very Qui-Gon-ish. It has the height, it has the build. It's made specifically for him, but I can also see this being used for some of the alien Jedi, at least the taller ones, you know. A nice texture all over the body. The wrinkles in the outer robe just makes it flow downward. It looks really great. The boots are definitely different than what we've seen before. The holes in the front kind of throw me off, almost like there's air holes. And then the paints, most of the stuff is molded in the plastic, but his undershirt has a nice tan to it. There is some, like, dirty overspray on the front, but it's just kind of two stripes. It doesn't really follow any of the grooves. But below the waist, it's pretty much the pants in the lighter brown, and then the darker brown for the boots molded in there, and then the color in between. But the colors do match up pretty good around the knee. And then around the belt, you get the browns, you get the silvers, you get the bronzes, kind of gold. Just nice little details on there. It kind of misses on some of the studs, but what are you going to do? I mean, it mostly on the back. And then we get up to the head, and this is where a lot of the new stuff happens. Now, the sculpt itself is very Qui-Gon-ish. It has the hair, it has the ponytail in the back, it runs down in the front. The face sculpt itself is very close. But I'm 99% sure this is a rubber mask over a head with eyes on it, because if you look at the eyes, you can see a hollowness, like they're behind the face. And if you're familiar with Figma, it looks very much like that, where there's interchangeable eyes behind it. But we get to paint, and like most Black Series, besides the eyes, the skin is just very flat. The hair is very flat, and the beard kind of misses on mine. I kind of wish there was like some 5 o'clock shadow to kind of connect the mustache to the beard. And at first, I thought the chin was jutting to his left, but I think it's just the brown paint right here is coming up higher on the left side. The right side, it comes down to almost below the chin, so it makes it look kind of kicked over. And then the skin tone is just flat. There's nothing to bring out any of the details besides just natural light. And then speaking on the light for a second, it highlights the bags under his eyes. Well, the kind of bags. It's in the sculpt. It's not really noticeable until you get him in some top light, and then it starts to look like he's just very sleepy or has been worrying way too much. But you can see that the eyes are not part of the face, and it's even more apparent when you pop the head off and you see that there's a plastic inner piece running around the inside. You can even peel the face away from it a little bit, but I think there's a peg right in the middle of that. If I had another Qui-Gon, which I'm considering because I kind of wanted to use this skirt on a Tusken Raider to make Sherrod het. If I had another Qui-Gon, yeah, I'd probably either try to cut this apart or heat it up and pop it off. I don't think it'd come off easily. But a good thing that caught me off guard is seeing the hinge and swivel at the elbow, but getting this kind of range of motion out of it. Usually when we see that point, it means that it's coming up to 90. You're not going to get any more than that. But because of how long the cut is on the forearm right there, you just get good range of motion. Not bad at all. Working against that for a Jedi character who, you know, has a lightsaber, both wrists are side to side. If there's a sword, if there's a lightsaber, if there's an axe or something, pretty much if they hold any kind of weapon, gun, whatever, I feel like it should always be up and down hinge. It just works better on wielding weapons. Going over articulation, there's a ball on a hinge in the neck going up into the head. You can't really get back a lot, even though the hair is fairly soft. But there's just too much of it back here to block going up. But going down, you can see that he can bury his chin. Not a lot of tilt. There's just not a lot of concave in there. Then there's swivel, which again, the hair gets up and out of the way. Hinge and swivel at the shoulder comes up to about right there. The torso seems really thick on top, like this robe is very, very heavy. Then it swivels around. Like I talked about, the elbow, hinge and swivel, comes up past 90, and it swivels. Hinge and swivel at the wrist, you get side to side, swivel. The torso, I can't really tell what's going on up in there because of the build or something. The robes, again, talking about how heavy it is up here. There's not really any forward and back. There is a little bit maybe, but it opens up that gap between the belt and the robes. There's definitely no forward. There is swivel. The lower robes are split at the sides so you can get up and out of the way. Then there's a ball coming out into the hip, get forward pretty much all the way. Back, runs into the butt sculpt. Out, about 45. There's a swivel at the thigh. Double knee comes all the way up. He can kick his own ass. Ankle goes back really good. Forward, not so much. It runs into the sculpt. And then forward facing pin for rocker. For accessories, he comes with an extra hand. In the package, he has two lightsaber wielding hands. And then for an extra left hand, he comes with the force wielding hand. Kind of his Jedi mind tricks pose, you know what I mean? And popping that off, it's pretty simple. It almost seems like the pin on the hands are a little bit long because if you look up into the sleeve, you can kind of see pin. It doesn't really go in there all the way. And the other hand goes in. That looks really good. He can do it, you know, real subtle like. He can do it full on. Yeah, I like this. It's a nice little addition. And then his other accessory is his lightsaber, and I like the sculpt of this. Mine did warp a little bit in the package. The blade kind of comes out crooked from the hilt, but with a little heat that should be fixed. But the sculpt and paint apps on the hilt, really, really great. The blacks, the silvers, the red button. And then for the lightsaber blade itself, this is maybe the greenest I've seen a lightsaber in a long, long time. It's a nice, vibrant green. It just sticks out at you. And for that, you can also pull the blade out. It's got a mushroom peg, kind of. It's not very long, but it's thicker than the ones we've seen before. So I don't feel like this one's just going to snap off if you get crooked with it. But then the hilt also has a pin on the back of it that you can put on the belt. That works for me. It looks really great hanging there. And because of the range in the elbows, it is pretty easy to get a two-handed pose on the lightsaber. But I feel like the up and down wrists would help here too, because if you try to get too crazy, it starts to pull out of the hands or even pull the hand out of the wrist. For comparison, here's Qui-Gon with the Black Series Darth Maul. Now I used the regular head on a custom, so it doesn't go back onto this body, but here he is with the full robes, and I feel like this is a good fit. Here's Qui-Gon with the SH Figure Arts Battle Droid. Again, this works really great. I'm not sure how tall battle droids are supposed to be, but this works in my brain. Here's Qui-Gon with the SH Figure Arts Episode 1 Obi-Wan. Definite height difference here. In fact, Obi-Wan is almost a little bit too short. It works in a relative scale kind of way, but there's a quality difference, especially in the faces, the paints, the skin tones. But if Hasbro ever wants to build on the Episode 3 Obi-Wan body, to go back and try to do an Episode 1 Obi-Wan on that body, this is what it would look like. And it's not terrible. Again, short, tall. Now this is a custom casted head that I repainted. I never got to the hands or the neck, so yeah, this looks screwy. But you you get an idea of size here. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna say that I really like this figure. And I'm sure that's especially weird after coming off a review of an SH Figure Arts figure that I kind of didn't like as much. What it comes down to is the SH Figure Arts Anakin is kind of a step down in quality from what we've seen in the past. The anger face on mine being screwballed really put me in a downward spiral on it. But for Qui-Gon here, I really recommend it because it's a step up in the Black series. Now, they haven't fixed the face paints. That's one of the things that they really need to work on. But they are trying to make advancements in the eyes, and I feel like it works here for the most part. It's not there yet, but I do like how it looks like real eyeballs behind the skin. The increased range of movement in the elbows, even though they are hinge and swivel, yeah, that's an advancement there. And the body looking a little bit dirty, a little bit ragged. I like that too. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. Hasbro has a long way to go with paints on these figures. And they definitely excel at the masked characters, like the Tusken Raider, the Imperial Royal Guard, Armored Troopers. The humans, we usually leave up to SH Figure Arts, but I really truly feel like Hasbro's trying here. And that makes me appreciate this figure a little bit more. Now, what really needs to happen is I need to see somebody paint up the head on one of these. The hair needs a wash. It needs to bring out some of the detail there. The face needs some shading, needs some work on it. The beard definitely needs some work. The eyebrows shaped a little bit better. But like always, like every other Black Series figure I've ever looked at, I feel like the sculpt is there. It just needs some paint to bring it out. There's also customizing potential here. It's a taller Jedi body. It's a good sculpt all over. There's a lot of casts out there that'll work on this body. C10, I feel like, is a bigger body. You could almost use this for a mace if you don't have the Figure Arts version. Just those taller Jedis. So for customizers, there's definitely a need to buy a couple of them at least. But like I said, following hot on the heels of this is the SH Figure Arts Qui-Gon. So if you're on the fence, I'd wait for that to release and then wait for reviews of that, see how these two compare. But if there had been no announcement for an SH Figure Arts Qui-Gon, I would have probably said, this is my display Qui-Gon. This is going on the shelf. And it is going on the shelf, really, but the main bout hasn't happened yet. We'll find out once the Figure Arts is released. But I'm good with this until then. So I'm happy. I'm always happy, for the most part. So if you like the review, comment, like, subscribe. I'll catch you on the Fwoosh.